Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. It's time for our thoughts on day 5 of fall camp 2024. As always, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's start off with the injury report. Cam Seldon, Mike Matthews, Jordan Burns, Jalen McMurray, John Campbell, and Andre Carrick were all limited. And we, of course, know that Jordan Thomas is out with the season-ending injury. But of note, right, Lance Hurd is no longer listed up under limited, which is huge. We definitely want to have as many people be healthy by week 1 as possible. But it does kind of look like we are starting to get back healthy, which is great. So we did get to hear from the offensive line, Coach Glenn Ellaby. We got to hear from Cooper Mays. We also heard from Dane Davis and Jackson Lampley. They all spoke to the media today. And the biggest takeaway, I would say, just with everyone, is how much they love this room. There's a whole lot of depth. I think everyone kind of touched on how much better they've gotten just going up against a very deep defensive line. We talk about that all the time, but iron does sharpen iron. Some key takeaways for me with Coach Ellaby was him kind of talking about, again, how deep that offensive line is, how veteran-led it is. But he also spoke some about getting some of those young guys reps and just kind of like getting them acclimated. He talked about it being an open competition at the left guard spot. He also talked about the backup center being an open competition. It does sound like Jesse Perry has been working in there. So that's going to be great. I mean, I feel really, really good about how the, offensive line is going to be looking moving forward, period. But especially at center, I love William Satterwhite. I was happy to hear Coach Ellaby saying some good things about Vice Lang as well, just because from what I've seen, he's a guy that can get it done for you. I don't know. Some people are like not as high on him, but I think that he's going to be fine as a backup center. I think that we're in a way better position than we were last season once Cooper Mays went down. But there was a couple of other takeaways, like with Dane Davis, he had talked about he's been cross-trained pretty much everyone on the offensive line. He has not worked in fall camp so far at center or at right guard, which I thought was interesting. It's just kind of going back to the backup center spot. We feel good about what we have there with some of those younger guys. And I think that that's why Dane Davis hasn't really got those reps there yet. But, I feel good about left guard as well. I think that we're just very deep everywhere. I just could not be prouder of the way that we built up the offensive line. I also want to talk a little bit about Jackson Lampley because he talked about his grandfather passing away and Coach Heupel reaching out to him, reaching out to his family, and just being there for him. And I've heard similar stories to that behind the scenes with Coach Heupel, that he's just a good, genuine dude. And I think that it's only a matter of time before we go on a crazy run. I think that it's actually going to be starting this season. But it's just because Coach Heupel, I mean, like behind the scenes, he's doing so many things. He's putting in so much work, so much effort. And again, just being genuine, people want to come and play for someone like that. So I just want to point that out. But let's go ahead and continue talking about the offensive line with what we saw today out on the field and the insider news and notes. Number one for me is that entire room, all those guys look really good. They're very well put together. I saw a couple of clips of Trevor Duncan. He looks great. Definitely starting to fill out. Got those long arms. We always talk about Jeremiah's Hurd looking really good. I think that Bennett Warren also is looking good. Like that's my first time really seeing him out there in his pad. So I just think that as far as the underclassmen go, on that line of scrimmage, inside of that offensive line, we're really, really good. Jesse Perry looks good. William Satterwhite looks great. The only thing that I will say, though, is with some of these guys, I think it was actually maybe William Satterwhite one time and probably Vice and Lang. We are, again, it's the 5th day of fall camp. So guys are going to be a little bit sore, maybe a little bit stiff, especially those bigger guys. So you really have to focus a little bit more on the technique and fundamentals. It was just a couple of times that I saw them kind of hitting their head on that, hoop drill where they're just kind of going through blocking. And the whole point of emphasis with that, obviously, is just to stay low. So that's the only thing that I saw that I guess I could say is maybe negative. But I think that, man, Lance Hurd looks like he's back. I kind of feel like maybe not 100%, but I'd say he looks about 90%. He looks like, he's not as gimpy as he was earlier on in fall camp, like last week. But I think that we are going to be very, very special up front. I mean, you have to love all the versatility that we have, all those veterans coming back. Also, we're hearing Coach Ellaby, speaking very, very highly of John Campbell, saying, man, like, I don't remember what the verbiage was that he used, but it was like, man, he looks phenomenal or something. So I love that. He talked a lot about him also just getting work in, outside of the building, which, I mean, all coaches love that. I think that us as fans, you love to see that too, but it's just a different feel, in my opinion. Like the whole vibe around the entire team is all about, hey, we're going out here to win a championship. And I think that it starts up front on both sides, but maybe more specifically on the offensive line. And I do feel like they could be a group that, might shock some people. I'm not talking about us, but just like national people, because, our D line gets so much credit and people talk about them so much. but people tend to forget that that offensive line has to go up against them every single day, and they're very special as well. So let's move on to the quarterbacks. I think that Nico looks better and better every time that I see him. I mean, he just looks so dialed in, so locked in. I think he's going to have an absolutely incredible season. Definitely was on the money. The insiders were talking about that as well. Just super, super crisp, super sharp. You can tell that he's operating with a ton of confidence. I love what I saw from Jake Merklinger. I love what I saw from Gaston Moore. That's another room that people are always asking, who's the backup going to be behind Nico? And, do we trust him or not? I feel like I trust both of the guys that are going to be backing Nico up this season. Obviously, Nico is going to be different, but I think that we are in good hands. Whenever they have to come into the game, which hopefully is just going to be because, we're up by 20 or 30 points, right? So let's talk about our secondary, because this is one that obviously we're going to be watching very, very closely with Jordan Thomas being down. I love what I've been seeing from Boo Carter, and you can tell that the coaches are really focusing on just coaching him up, getting him right, getting him ready, because he's going to have to go. I think that he will end up being the starter. But like we talked about yesterday, we're so versatile inside of that room. So many people can get cross-trained. I saw Christian Charles working at safety, but I've heard that he's also going to be working some at star. And we heard that Will Brooks was working some at safety. He was actually kind of higher up on the depth chart today. So, maybe he works in, maybe like on that 2 deep, but he was also working at star. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic, before we get done with fall camp, to see who's going to be the guy right there, especially at star. But I think that coming up on Friday, once we have that scrimmage, we should have a little bit of a better idea of who maybe we could trust the most. But it's going to take a whole lot of consistency. I still love how we look at cornerback. I mean, I think that we've got two for sure ballers that are going to be starting, but also I think that we've got some really good, solid depth behind them. I also would love to see Caleb Beasley get an opportunity to maybe play at star. So hopefully they will try him out right there, just because I think that his body type and his style of play, it just fits that nickel position, that star position so well. But also Marcus Gorey Jr., that's a young guy that I think could play star at a really high level. So yeah, of course it sucks losing anybody for the entire season. You hate to have that. But I think that, being that we do have so much talent, so many, good young athletes that we can maybe cross train there. And we've also got plenty of veterans that we can move around. I think that we're going to be fine inside of our secondary. I'm very much looking forward to hearing how they perform out there in the scrimmage. Now let's talk about the tight ends. I thought that they looked good today. There was a couple times where I saw Holden Stays just kind of, working on not really like a double move, but it's like a quick jab to the outside on like a little in route, whatever. But that's kind of like that wily old veteran stuff that you love to see, especially with your tight ends, because he's going to have to find ways, and not just him, but any of those tight ends, you're going to have to get open on critical down and distances. And I think that he can most definitely do that. I was just very impressed with him in seeing that. Also, Ethan Davis looks really, really good. I'm so proud of the way that he's recreated his body, and like what he's doing out there. He still has that speed, still has that burst. Been hearing some great things about him behind the scenes. And I also heard that the tight ends went up against the linebackers in some one-on-one drills kind of towards the end. And I want to say that that Mouse Kitzelman lost the rep. Maybe it was versus Edwin Spillman. Don't quote me on that. But either way, y'all, it's not a cause for concern. It's going to happen, right? Like, you're never going to win every single rep. Some people are going to, get the better of you sometimes. And that's really what you want. Like, you want to have guys on your team that can push you and that can challenge you. But I love that room. I love this tight end room. And I think that they're going to be a big part of why this season should be very special for our Volunteers. Now let's talk about that defensive line. Obviously, super deep. We're loaded right there. But Jamal Wallace really flashed on film for me today. He's a defensive tackle, bigger body, but he's very twitchy. I didn't realize that he was that twitchy, but he's got some very quick feet. I think that he's going to help us out this season. I can't wait to see what he does in the scrimmages that are going to be coming up, and maybe hear some more insider notes from behind the scenes with him. But yeah, I think that he can most definitely get some things done. I also think that Jason Jenkins looks really, really good. I mean, he's extremely explosive. He's very long. We kind of already knew these things, but I mean, just kind of knowing how much people have been talking about him since last year, I think that he could be one of the guys that would have kind of like a breakout year in 2024. Who else could do it for you? I mean, several people. Joshua Josephs, he's looking really good. I'm very impressed with him. I think that he might end up, he might end up getting double-digit sacks for real. And then we also have guys like Caleb Herring, who you love. I mean, we have so many people up front, and I can't wait to see what the rotation is going to be. But I mean, obviously, there's a whole lot for us to be excited about with that group. Now let's talk about that second level, the linebacker room. Love them from top to bottom. It sounds like they were working on pass coverage today, working on some crossing routes, things like that. Sounds like everyone looked good, just kind of going through that drill. I don't know if it was full speed or not, but Edwin Spillman is someone that definitely stood out to some of the insiders. They're talking about, hey, he might not just be a special teams guy. He might actually get into the rotation. That's what we would expect. I just think that he's too good to keep him off the field. I think that he's ready to play as long as he understands what's going on, which it sounds like he's grasped all that stuff. So as long as he understands what to do, he can most definitely play. He's an absolute baller. Jordan Burns is a guy that I feel like can be maybe as good as Edwin Spillman. We haven't seen much of him yet because obviously he's been limited, but he's one that I can't wait to see how he looks and, kind of hear what he does, as far as like scrimmages, things like that. How is he competing? Is he somebody else that maybe could kind of get thrown into that mix? Because I think it's always just about having that depth. Linebacker is a position that, knock on wood, we've been very fortunate with over the past few seasons, really like outside of Keenan Pili, but we've stayed relatively healthy there. But typically linebackers, they typically get hurt. It's kind of like running backs. They're doing so much hitting all the time. But saying all that just to say, you feel a lot more comfortable about those things this season because we are so deep, right? So Keenan Pili, hopefully he's healthy for the entire season. Arion Carter, Jeremiah Telander, Jalen Smith sounds like he's been, picking it up. Caleb Perry, so on and so forth. I also really like Eli Purcell, just from, some of the clips that I have seen of him. I like what he could bring to this team and what he is going to be bringing to this team. So that's just a really, really deep room. I'm just super proud of the way that we built it up. And I can't wait to watch them go out there and ball. I think that they're going to be a huge piece in, or they're going to play a huge role in us going on and hopefully winning a national title, just because historically, man, our linebacking core is where teams have kind of like attacked us at the most. I don't think that they'll be able to get away with that this season. And I don't really care who we put out there. I trust 5 or 6 guys inside of that room. Now let's talk about that running back room. It sounds like we were lining them up in the slot and letting them go out and catch some passes, and they looked really good doing it. So that's big, just because you can create so many different mismatches. If you can, let's say, start a running back off inside of the backfield and then motion them out, it might not just be a mismatch with them. It could be mismatches that you're creating anywhere, as long as they can go out and they can run the routes and catch the passes. But sounds like we are very, very good at that. And that's just, I think that that's going to be a very serious weapon for Coach Heupel and Coach Halsley this season. I feel like we'll probably use that a little bit more than we have in the past couple of seasons. But Cam Seldon looks really good. I think that he's kind of chomping at the bit to get out there and get some real contact. But I think that he will be available by week 1. Will he play? That's probably yet to be seen. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him and Peyton Lewis kind of, as maybe like a 1-2 punch, because I also really love the way that Peyton Lewis looks. We talked about that in the highlights that we were breaking down earlier today. I mean, he just looks like a grown man. It looks like he has gained weight maybe since the first day of fall camp. But what's he going to give you? You know what I mean? Like, what can he do as far as, whenever the live bullets are flying, what does he do, in scrimmage situations? That's what I want to see. That's what I'm looking forward to from him. Can he pick up the pass protection and all that type of stuff? I think that he probably can, and I think he's going to do a very good job at it. Obviously, we still have Dylan Sampson. We still have Bishop, and we have Keith. Those are guys that I trust. I love the way that they look. There's a whole lot of, to me, it just feels like there's a whole lot of brotherhood inside of that room. Seems like they're kind of like rooting for one another, which is really, really big. But I think that we're going to have a really big season with that running back room. I'm getting more and more confident with them, I think with every single practice that we watch. Now, finally, let's talk about the wide receiver room. Chris Brazzell is a stud. He looks super confident. He looks very dialed in. I think that him and Nico might kind of be on the same page with some things too. It's almost like a little bit of a different confidence that I see whenever Nico's throwing him the ball. He kind of gets up a little bit more whenever he's throwing it to him. So definitely love to see that. I think that that room is just going to be absolutely ridiculous. I feel like Chris Brazzell might end up leading this team in touchdowns, at least, maybe outside of that room. But, I think the Squirrel White has been looking really good. I think that Brew McCoy's looked very good. Sounds like Dante Thornton was back out there. He was a full participant today. So that's huge. He's another one that you absolutely love. He's got a, crazy skill set to go along with, a whole bunch of size and range and speed. So I think that he's going to be special as well. Who's going to end up starting between him and Chris Brazzell? That's going to be really interesting. But also, man, I can't wait to see from Mike Matthews, just because he has been limited. Haven't really got to see him at all in any of the clips that we've kind of broken down. But him, man, Braylon Staley, obviously Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb. I also think that Nathan Leacock has looked really good in the clips that I have seen of him. I think that Nate Spillman looks good. So it's just an extremely, extremely deep room. And hopefully we'll be able to get a nice rotation and everyone will, get an opportunity to go out there and make some plays. I think that that's very important for the future of this team, especially if we want to keep on bringing in more and more blue chip caliber wide receivers. But that's going to be it for my thoughts on day 5 of fall camp. Please let me know y'all's down in the comments section. As always, thank you for sticking all the way to the end. Please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all in just a minute. Thanks. Peace.